Hey, okay. Good to see you. Open your Bibles to Mark 5. Mark 5. What's the date today? The 10th? The 10th means that some of you are pretty excited because you're doing your goals. Your resolutions have stuck. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. Also, some of you have already collapsed. you have already caved in, and that whole goal setting thing didn't work. But that's okay. Jesus still loves you. I'm excited about this message because one, I love this story. I have always loved this story because I have a heart for the underdogs. I do. People that got it together, they're great, and we'll always have them with us. But humanity is really broken. It's really broken. It is. If you have an ounce of discernment, it's broken. You see it. The older you get, the more wiser and more mature you get. You even see it in the people that try to pretend that they're not broken. And, I just have a heart for broken people, and Jesus has a heart for broken people. Mark 5 is a great chapter because it's a chapter about transition and change. It's about what does it look like to get a hold of Jesus? It was interesting. It's not in your notes. It kind of hit me later on today as I was just meditating on this chapter. But this chapter is about people that receive Jesus, and it's about people that reject Jesus. And I would say, well, you and I will always encounter people that reject and receive Jesus. I mean, they're everywhere. Some are going to receive him, and some are going to reject him. Some are going to receive the things that he has, walk in the fullness of who they are and what he has for them, and some will reject. And that's just the way it is. But what's interesting is that there's three people in this chapter that really receive. Okay, one is a demon-possessed guy. Okay, a really, really demon-possessed guy. The second one is a leader that comes, a religious leader who comes on behalf of his daughter to Jesus to be healed, okay? And that's the second one that receives. And then the third one is a woman with a chronic hemorrhage that she's in really bad shape. And all three of them receive. Now, there's a whole lot of people in the story. There's a whole lot of people. There's a lot of crowds. But only these three people in this chapter receive. And as I read this, and I read it, and I just looked at it, and I looked at it, all of a sudden it hit me late today that the common denominator for the three people, I mean, you have a woman, you have a leader, and you have a demon-possessed guy. The common denominator was that all three of them came to Jesus on their knees. I'm not here to give you a formula for prayer, but if three people get a hold of Jesus, and there's a common denominator, and it's that they were on their knees, that tells me that I should pay attention to that. So, do with that what you want. That was free. Okay, so Mark 5, here we go. And remember, our life is one, the Christ follower's life is one of habitual faith. We live faith to faith. We live glory to glory. Now the just shall live by faith. Shall live by faith. But if any man draws back, my soul will have no pleasure in him. So your life and my life is one long believing God. That's what it is. You and I will never be done believing God for things, for people, for situations, on behalf of people, as intercessors, as people that stand in the gap for people who can't stand for themselves. I mean, so the whole faith thing isn't just this little formula, or it's just not this little addendum to our life. It really is the way that we are wired by God, for God, to believe God all the time. Not just on the weekend, not just once in a while, but this is, and when you're done believing, there's someone else to be believing for. And there's, it just never ends. It never ends. So Mark chapter 5, verse 25, there was a woman who had a discharge of blood for 12 years. As a man, I just want to go la, 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 la right now. But I'm going to be mature. Verse 26, okay. Had suffered much. Everybody say suffered much. Suffered much under many physicians and spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. Okay, that's bad shape right there. I don't know how many of you have lived with something chronically for 12 years. That's a long time. I know people that have. It's not a fun ride. 12 years. So chronic discharge, hemorrhage of blood, suffering a lot, exploited by doctors, no better, grew worse. This woman is, she's stuck. I think we would agree with that. That is a stuck state. It's an alienated state. It's an ostracized state. It's a physically, emotionally depleted state. And we're not talking about a blue Monday. We're not talking about a bad day or a bad week. We're talking a decade and a couple of years of really rough living, man. Rough existing. Rough oppression. This woman is taxed so many ways, exploited on top of that. People that have the latest little charm or remedy or snake oil for her. And you know what? And she's a spent woman. I want to ask you 4 questions, and they're in your notes, and don't skip ahead. I want to ask you 4 questions that would bring life to us. Have you ever thought about how powerful questions are? Questions are really powerful. Jesus asked 307 questions. 307 times, 307 questions Jesus asked in the Gospels. He didn't ask questions because he didn't know the answer. That's not why he asked questions. He asked questions to locate people, to help them see where they were. He asked them questions to forge intimacy. He asked them questions to really clarify their heart. It's interesting, out of the 307 questions that Jesus asked, he answered, it's around a third of them, he answered his own question, which I don't really know what that's all about, but he did it. He asked the question, and as people were looking perplexed, he gave the answer to that. But questions are powerful, and Jesus, this is part of how he taught. He asked questions. He wanted to solidify convictions. You think about Peter, poor Peter. He says, who do people say that I am? Some say this, some say, well, who do you say that I am? And that's a question that locates where you are. He's asking tough questions. You remember after Peter sold Jesus out, he asked Peter, the infamous question, do you love me? And Peter, yeah, of course I love you. No. I'm going to ask it one more. Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you, Lord. Peter, do you love me? And Peter gets agitated at the fact that the Lord has to ask him 3 times. Peter's a little clueless. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that you sold Jesus out and you said you would never sell him out, and you did. And so, Jesus does have a right to kind of challenge you a little bit in the commitment area of your life. And so he's asking those questions. Now, something I found really fascinating is that children ask an average of 125 probing questions a day. And if you're a parent, you've been on the end of that. Why this and how come that and why do they, why did this and where do babies come from? And ask your mother and there's just why is the sky blue and on and on and on and on and on. It's maybe that's when Jesus said, unless you become like a child. Okay, so if the average child asks 125 questions a day, research says that the average adult asks 6. Okay, see if you can just make this connection. It's no wonder that there's a loss of wonder with adults. Stop asking questions. You became sophisticated. You think you know the answers, and so it's beneath you to stop. I'm wondering if maybe the key to some miraculous in our life isn't praying more, but maybe it's asking more questions. That's a subtle deal, man. You gotta have some internal chops to hear that right there. Ask questions. You and I stop asking questions. When we stop asking questions, we start making assumptions. That's the problem. We start making assumptions. And you can read through the whole Bible. You can see people that made wrong assumptions. And just today, my devotional today. Abraham, God has judged Sodom and Gomorrah. He's on the run with his family. He's leaving. He's transitioning. He's with Sarah, his wife. They go somewhere. I think it's, what's the guy's name? Abimelech? No, never mind. Some king. I should remember his name. I don't remember his name. Anyways, but comes to him and says, hey, wow, who's the gal? That's my sister. Okay, good. He takes Sarah. So Abraham, okay, this is the father of our faith, lies through his eye teeth. Lies, my sister. Okay, this is just interesting. This isn't planned. This isn't in the notes. This is free good stuff. So then all of a sudden, this king, finds out, oh, wow, this was his wife, panics. God speaks with him and says, you know what? You do anything, I'm going to kill you, basically. Okay, that's a short paraphrase. You're toast, buddy. And this guy panics. What are you doing? Confronts Abraham, says, you lied to me. What were you doing? And you know what he said? Here, this is what Abraham said. He said, I didn't think anybody here feared God. That's a bad assumption. You know what? That's a bad assumption. Let me just draw that from then, Genesis, to you now. Don't ever make a bad assumption that anybody doesn't have a fear of God based on what you see on the outside. That's a bad assumption. Abraham, man, he's all that, man. He's the patriarch. He's the father of our faith. And he has some lunkhead tendencies that we could learn from. We need to pay attention. Don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions about people. Don't make assumptions about God. So ask some questions, man. Ask questions. Do you think God gets tired of answering questions? Do you think he gets tired of his children asking questions? I don't think so. I think you and I need to cultivate that and ask questions beyond the why God questions. Beyond that, man. I mean, get into his heart, get into his word, ask questions, recapture the wonder that was lost a long time ago when you were young. You look at this woman here, and 12 years, once again, you go through this, and when you just look at who she is and just everything that, imagining what she was like physically and emotionally, relationally, all these kinds of things. She's unclean. She probably doesn't have any friends. She's, exploited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's interesting because you can get into a place, even as a Christian, where you learn helplessness and stay there. Where things don't go the way you think they should. And you may pray a bit, you may have people pray, and you may, do certain things, and you may confess the word, or you may, whatever your ritual might be. But there comes a point where all of us, can come to, and if whatever it is we're believing for or hoping for doesn't really manifest itself, we can just kind of get into this learned helplessness thing and just say, what's the use? In some forms of psychology, not hard psychology, it's not in the DSM-5, it's not in the Journal of American Medical Association's book, but there is a syndrome called what the hell syndrome. That's true. That's true. I'm not saying that for a fact. It is. It's a syndrome. It's called what the hell syndrome. And what that is that's where you set goals, you try to advance in career or health or whatever, and you go, and then all of a sudden there's the temptation to, cave in. It's mainly used for dieters. Anybody in here been on a diet before? Then you know exactly what it is. You're doing good, man. You're keeping to your calories, you're keeping to your steps, which I'm way behind tonight. I'm at 4,066. Got to get 10,000. Anyways, you get to the point, and you're doing good, and you're eating fruits and vegetables and lean meats and chicken and and you're doing all, and then all of a sudden, man, there's the surfacing of the chocolate eclair. And they appear out of nowhere, man. Just boom, there it is. The devil brought it. And you look at it, and you go, no, I'm being strong. Then you start flirting with it. You know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden you think, just one bite. Just one bite, that's all it was. And then you feel bad because you caved even a little. And then what happens is what the hell syndrome is, I had one bite, I might as well have another bite. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? How many have done this? You've done this, okay? And I've already had 2 bites, I might as well eat the dozen, okay? And that's it. That's exactly what happened to you. It's the what the hell syndrome. It's like, forget it. And that happens naturally. That happens spiritually. It happens spiritually. where you resist temptation, whatever your temptation is, whatever it is your weakness is, and you resist and you battle, and I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to think like that. I'm not going to gossip. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to look at that. And then all of a sudden, whatever, the enemy comes in, solicits you to do evil, and you bite a little bit, and then all of a sudden, there's that condemnation comes in. Guilt comes in. It started with conviction, there's condemnation, then there's, I'll never change, and then there's, the loathing and self-hatred, and then you keep going down those roads, man, and then all of a sudden it's like, I just can't live this life. And you just, what doesn't matter. You cave in. And I'm telling you, let me just say this, okay? Write this. If you want a tattoo, this is a good tattoo if you're going to get one, okay? And I'm not even a fan of tattoos, but if I was going to get one, this might be it. On the other side, like twin little laughs over there. It was kind of cute, Danny. There is grace on the other side of everything. There is. There's grace on the other side of it. Listen, you're going to fail. Sorry. You're going to be weak. You're going to cave. You're going to make vows to God. You're going to make promises to God. The promises that say, God, I will never do that again. Whatever that is, I will never do that again. And you do it. And then there's the God, I am going to do this. From now on, I am going to pray for It doesn't work. It's 11:59 at night. I didn't do it. Click. I just can't do that. And I'm just telling you, that solicits everybody in this room. What I love about her is when I read this story, it's like, so what's my excuse? Really, this woman for 12 years has not been at the top of her game. She's been at the bottom of her game. And it's like, and she, you know what? She does some hard work. Here's the second question. Will you invite God in to show you the condition of your soul? He's messing with us now. Yeah, I know. Will you invite God in to show you the condition of your soul? Well, here's the deal. God knows us because he is God, but wants the invitation anyways. He knows us. He knows us. Psalm 139 is a phenomenal psalm. They're all good. But Psalm 139 is about the awesomeness of God. It's about the omniscience of God. It's about the fact that God knows everything and there's nowhere to hide from him. There's nowhere to hide from God. And there's also a celebration of that fact by David. Okay? And so I want you to just look at this right here. Psalm 139, verse 1 and 2. O Lord, you have searched, means examined thoroughly, me, and known by experience, me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. Okay? Now, verse 23. He starts out, and in fact, you read Psalm 139, he pretty much just states positionally who he is, who God is, and what God knows. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, you are this, you know that, on and on and on. And then he gets to the end, and then it changes. He goes from just a statement of truth to an invitation. And this is how he ends. After he already knows God knows him, there's the invitation. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me. Know my anxieties. It means to scrutinize. Know my anxious thoughts. It's an invitation. Anxious thoughts are the agitated thoughts, the upset thoughts, the disturbed thoughts, the unnerved thoughts, unsettled thinking. He wants God to search his heart, and know what he's really going through on a deep level emotionally. Verse 24, and see if there's any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. Man, let me tell you something. Invitation and intimacy are synonymous. See, I can know my wife. She can know me. But it doesn't start getting really close and intimate until we start asking those kind of questions. You know, like, honey, is there anything I could do to be a better spouse? Well, I thought you'd never ask. Guys, you know what that means? That's terrifying. That's terrifying. And you know what? But what is that? That's invitation. Invitation to intimacy. I'll tell you guys, man. How many married guys are in here? Can I see your hands? I'll tell you how to put some change in your pocket right now, okay? Right now. You ask your wife, you just say, honey, would you want to go to a marriage retreat? Honey, would you want to go to a marriage Bible study? Ching, 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 ching. You'll get change in your pocket, guys. I kid you not, man. Why? Because women are all over anything that just might facilitate a little bit of understanding, a little bit of intimacy. Women are all over that. I'm telling you that. It's a little scary, I know, but, put your big boy pants on and do it. And don't wait for your wife to say, what did you think about what he said tonight? Don't do that, women. You sabotage, man. You blow the whole thing up. Let that silent awkwardness in the car just... Yeah, do that. Just feel that. It's good. Women, just don't say nothing, man. Let God deal with his heart. Yeah. So, invitation. Inviting God, show you the condition of your soul. Let me say this. God will never reveal to you and I the hideousness of who we are unless he detects the courage to face it. Okay, well, remind me to say that because that's not in the notes. Okay, remind me afterwards. I'll put that down. That's true. That's how God works. That's what a graceful God does. Does he overwhelm you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does he highlight? Yeah. But you know what? It's most of the time, it's really proportionate to who you are, what your stature is, what you can handle. He's not afraid to make you feel uncomfortable, but he doesn't want to put you in a full Nelson and break your neck either. Okay? That's not who God is. Okay, Matthew 12, verse 35. Once again, this is part of it. Okay? This is part of the heart dimension. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things. An evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things. This is true about everybody. Everybody in here. We are always bringing forth from our heart whatever's been deposited by you or someone else. See, Jesus said, Matthew 15, out of the heart proceeds evil. And then he goes on and gives a list, man. Gives a list of the evil that can proceed out of the heart of man. Adulteries and murders and envies and on and on and on. That comes from the heart. That's slander. It's what comes from the heart. Evil thoughts, murder, sexual immorality, lying, theft. Those proceed. See, nothing comes out of your heart and my heart that wasn't already there. It was there. So when you say, I don't know how that happened, I don't know where it came. It came. It was in there. That's what comes out. I swore. I never swear. Yeah, you did. It's down there. Little swear words. Boo, boo. Yeah, it happens. It was there. It was deposited. It's all there. Our deepest conditions and deepest devotions all leak out of us. And once again, you may think, I think about the Apostle Paul. I want to say it's in 1 Corinthians 8, 2 Corinthians 8, somewhere in the middle there of one of those two books, when he is talking about the judgment of the children of Israel as they were transitioning. Okay, hold that thought. Hold that thought. Okay, I've got several thoughts that are just kind of working. Okay, he makes this statement about people that are doing well spiritually. Which, how many of you would say, right now, you're doing well spiritually? It's okay. It's not a trick question. I'm not going to throw a sidewinder at you. But how many of you would say you're doing well spiritually? Not many of us. No, I mean, it's not a trick question. You don't try to second guess what's going on now. That's what you do. You kind of go, if I raise my hand, he might say, you, get up here. No, I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. I promise. I won't do that. It's just a how many of you are doing well spiritually? I just want to ask you, you're scared to death, aren't you? Okay, there wasn't a trick question. Here's what Paul said. He said, let him who stands take heed, pay attention, lest you fall. It's just a warning. When you're doing good, and there will be times when you're doing good. There really will. Where you're doing good. It's like, wow, read my Bible, prayed, haven't had bad thoughts. I'm doing cruising along. I'm loving people. It's not like I'm not judging. I'm not gossiping. You're doing good. You're doing good. But to those that are doing well, it's pay attention, take heed, watch that you don't fall. Because, getting back to the way we prayed earlier, when you're doing good, when you think you're doing good, it's not about your strength. It's about your weakness. And once again, it pops up. Don't be afraid to let ugliness pop up. Don't be afraid to let God expose what's in your heart. I had a situation. Well, I'm going to just tell you this one. This is kind of actually funny, tragic, and sad all at the same time. There was, months ago, I was getting ready to go on a little sabbatical. I was going to get away, and this guy took me out for coffee, and it was great, and we were just having a good time. And so, walk him out to his car. Hey, good seeing you, man. I'll see you later, whatever. He goes, hey, do you need anything to anything while you're on sabbatical? I said, no, I'm doing good. He goes, no, I mean, you're going to Haiti, you're going to do some traveling. Do you need anything? And I said, no, I'm good. He pulls out an envelope, and it was stuffed full of cash, big cash. I'm not talking little ones, fives. No, I'm talking hundos, man. And it was a fat envelope. And he asked me a third time. He opens it up. He sticks it in my face. He goes, take what you need, seriously. I kid you not. I was good the first time. Nah, good, I'm good. Second time, I'm good. No, good. Third time, good. Then there's a wad of cat. And my mind just started going crazy. I resisted temptation 3 times. It wasn't even a temptation. Money's not my thing. I don't, it's no big deal, whatever. But man, I started seeing, and then he did this little thing. It's like, I about passed it out. I said, no, but thank you. Jumped out of the car, got in my car, called my wife. I got the love of money. Oh God, it's bad. This guy offered me a bunch of money. I almost took it. I almost reached in and just grabbed it. Made excuses to just grab money. I don't think about it, man, but when it was there, ate my lunch. Bad, I kid you not. Then on the way home, I thought, I should call him back. No. I lied. I got a lot of needs. Tons of needs. Needs everywhere. Forgot all about them. That was in my heart. It just took the little to flush it out, man. Oh, gosh. But you know what? I'm glad I didn't take it. It was like, because that was the truth. I didn't need anything. I didn't. Depends on how you define need. But anyways, I didn't need nothing. Okay, so, and that's in there with all of you. You think you're doing good? That's not an issue. And all of a sudden, whoop. Anyways, pay attention. Okay, you've got 13 symptoms of a hard heart right there. Once again, this is an example. This is just, do some inventory here. Jesus talked. He was grieved at their hardness of hearts. Religious people that, thought they knew what was going on, thought they had the whole God thing down. And Jesus, man, just nailed them and talked about the hardness of the heart. And here's just some of the symptoms. If this is what's coming out of you, pay attention and make a little check or a little sad face if you relate to it. You stop caring about people's pain. Okay, enough said. You harbor resentments. You know what a resentment is? That by definition, a resentment is a resentiment. A resentiment. It's where you have a sentiment or a feeling, a bad feeling about a person or a situation that took place, and then there's a recycling that takes place. So it's a resentment. It's going back over in your mind. Whatever they did, whatever they said, however they hurt you, however they screwed you over, however something happened, and it's a re-feeling. It's a re-feeling. That's what resentment is. And that's part of a hard heart there. Another symptom is repentance is shallow and infrequent. The question, begs to be asked, are you convictable? Are you convictable? When you do something wrong, when you think about doing something wrong, when you did something wrong, is there the conviction of the Lord that just says, man, you know what? You didn't do that right. You got to get it right. You got to go ask for forgiveness. You got to go own it. You got to confess. Is there that? Or is it just, it's shallow? God, sorry, blew it again. Is it shallow? Is it infrequent? Lingering disappointment from unanswered prayers. Once again, I don't think it's a sin to be disappointed when you ask God for something and the answer is no, and to be a little disappointed. When it lingers, at some point, the lingering is an accusation against God that he didn't know what he was doing. That's what's really wrong. And that's a bad heart. Jealousy when others are blessed. Whatever blessing looks like, when you hear, do you rejoice with them or do you go, well, they really did. I know them. I pray more than them. I attend church more than them. They're nominal at best. Nominal. That shouldn't have happened. That, bad heart. I'm clear. It's not good. I kid you not. Quickly forgetting God's previous blessings. Quickly forgetting God's previous blessings. Spiritual pride. Looking down on people. Gracelessness. Name dropping. Defending yourself. Proverbs said pride brings a man low. It's no good, man. Pride is no bueno. Blame and excuses. When you sin, you blame. Well, I wouldn't have done this, they wouldn't have done that, and if they wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have done that, skip it. That's bad. That's no good. Be lame. How do you spell it? How do you spell blame? Be lame. It's lame to blame. Seriously. And it is. You ever heard somebody say, well, it really wasn't my fault. It's like, God, it would be so much easier if you just owned it and moved on. Because I'd move on quick, but you're so busy going, it's like, oh my gosh. It's really immaturity too. It's not just a hard heart. So, indifference to the gospel, to the word, to prayer, to the kingdom of God. Indifference. Be lukewarmness. Not good. You just go through the motions. Worship becomes mechanical. Prayer becomes mechanical. Going to church becomes mechanical. Going to small group, it's just mechanical. No life, no spirit. It's mechanical. Going through the motions. You ever done that? I've done that. I mean, seriously. I've been in worship. I don't even know if I should confess that. Oh, my gosh. And have been so far checked out, it's not even funny. Right. Until I realize I may look like a little bit that I'm worshiping. I'm not here, God. Oh, geez. Forgive me. That's usually, if you see me drop to my knees, that's what happened there. I just checked back in. That's seriously. And you know what? Check out, but always check back in. Go through the motions. There's no celebration and gratitude. I'm telling you, a heart alive for God is grateful and celebrates often. Recounts the blessings of God often. Seriously, rehearses the blessings of God. God has been good. God has been faithful. Think about it. You're alive right now. We don't even need to go much further than that. You got a pulse. You do. You got things. You got eyesight. You got blessings, man. Be grateful. That's a heart that's alive. Celebrating, man. Number 12, you find faults. This is a hard heart. You find faults with people and the church, but personally, you don't like to be challenged. Hey, man, do you hear how quiet that is? Look how quiet. Everything else is kind of funny, and glad it's not me. You get down to number 12, man. Fault finders. It takes 0 to be a fault finder. It takes 0. You don't need anything. Nothing The easiest thing on the planet is to be a fault finder. Seriously. It's the easiest thing to do. Carve up the church. Easiest thing to do. Any church. I can go to any church. Any church. 5 minutes. If I want to find faults, pick it apart. Seriously. Like whatever's left on the drumstick. I could do it. So easy. I don't do it. So easy. Pick apart a preacher. So easy. Pick people. Easy. No nobility. No spiritual gifting to do that. That's a hard heart. But at the same time, sometimes the people that are like that the most, try to ask them a few questions about their faults. Oh man, here comes the verses. Don't judge. Well, wait a minute, man. You were just ripping on brother so-and-so. You were just ripping on sister so-and-so. You were just ripping on this church. You were just ripping over here. You're posting this, posting that. But now you want to talk? All of a sudden you're saying, yes, gosh, seriously, man. Repent of that. That's just garbage. Okay. It says 13 symptoms of a hard heart. I only have 12. So that's just a lot of mercy right there. Okay, just not that I couldn't come up with another one, but here's the deal. The heart knows its own bitterness. Unless you've really wired in denial, you know where your heart's at. You do. If you would take time enough to slow down and reflect on your heart, and dare I say, ask God to reveal your heart. Let me tell you something. As long as you keep pretending, our hearts keep hardening. Shrunken soul. The danger is that when you and I accept a harder heart, it can become the new norm. Well, that's just the way I am. Now, that's a bad way to be. Seriously, that's not condemnation. I'm just saying you don't want to be a hard-hearted person. If you're a hard-hearted young person, you'll be a hard-hearted old person. Let me just tell you, look at some hard-hearted old people. You don't want to be like that. You know, that crusty, cranky, creviced, upside-down smile, you don't want to be that. You do not want to be that. I'm telling you, the condition of your heart will show up on the countenance of your face no matter what kind of cream you use. I'm just telling you, it's the truth. It's called your countenance. And when you spend time with God, your countenance shows. And when you don't, it shows. And when you give into the poison of your own heart, it shows. Okay, I'm moving on. I'm going to get through this, okay? Verse 27. She heard the reports about Jesus, came up behind him in the crowd, touched his garment. She said, if I touch his garments, I will be made well. Okay, third question. Will you trust Jesus and believe your way out of your stuck condition? Here's the deal. She had to, grace and effort are not opposed to each other. It depends on the intention. So a lot of times we think, well, if I walk in grace, there's no effort. No, there's effort. In fact, Hebrews 4, labor to enter into the rest of God, which sounds like backwards. No, there are things we have to do. This woman, listen, she, forced her way through these crowds, man. Think about this. She forced her way through crowds of people that didn't want to help her. It doesn't say that anybody tried to help her. Nobody tried to help her. This was her determination, her persistence. This was her. That's what makes her a pretty remarkable lady. When she heard about Jesus, what you hear about Jesus determines what you believe about Jesus, what you trust about Jesus. And we can't have wholehearted surrender without wholehearted trust. And the only way you get to that point is when you know who he is, what his character is. When she had to hear something that this Jesus heals. He wants to heal. He loves to heal. He's about healing. She had to hear good news. Don't be a good news person living a bad news life. So that's part of our call. We're to be good news people. I'm not talking pretend when things aren't. I'm just saying. We believe the good news of the gospel. She heard, she believed, her faith grew, she pressed through, and she got healed. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. So will you trust God out of your stuck condition? And we all get stuck. Gosh, that lousy clock up there. There's some things in your notes that you can look at on your own. But verse 29, immediately the flow of blood dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. I'm just going to say this. This is the Jesus I met 33 years ago. As an alcoholic, as a promiscuous dude, as a guy without any purpose except hedonism, this is the Jesus I met right here that delivered me from that. I mean, seriously. And I'm going to tell you, this came only through going to a bookstore, buying a Bible, because I didn't know one Christian, and start reading the gospel and reading every single day and praying every single day and highlighting meaningful scriptures about who Jesus was with a big fat powder blue highlighter. I came to a conclusion that maybe he who did that back then can do similar things right now. It drove me to my knees. I didn't have anybody that had bad theology and said, he doesn't do that anymore, and he doesn't answer prayer anymore. I didn't have anybody to corrupt me. I believed the word as I read it. It caused me to pray. He set me free once for all, completely. End of story. And that's the Jesus I met. And that's the Jesus I know. And, so you got to love this woman. And you got to love Jesus. And let's stand up so you think you're going. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone out of him, immediately turned to the crowd and said, who touched my garments? His disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing around you, yet you say, who touched me? He looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what happened to her, came in fear and trembling, fell down before him. Okay, there you go. Fourth time somebody drops to their knees at Jesus' feet. She did it twice. Told him the whole truth. He said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Be healed of your disease. Last question. Just ponder. How much power and presence of God will you experience this year? And maybe, the better question is, how much will you participate with God? That's the better question. Once again, just thinking of some words, biblically, New Testament, words that show participation. Once again, I jotted 25 words down, biblical words, one thing that do talk about some responsibility that we have, not for our salvation. Nothing you can do to that except receive it by grace and faith. That's it, period. But our spiritual life, our sanctification, all those things. I mean, there's words like ask, pray, love, sacrifice, hear. Renew, strengthen, encourage, build up, strive, work, fight, labor, abide, renew, wrestle, exercise, confess, fellowship, build up, bless, devote, work out, seek. Those are all participatory words. Those are not passive words. Those are things we do. So the question isn't, how much, it's how much will you participate? Once again, that's just, I can't solve that for you. I don't have some plan up my sleeve. Okay, here it is. No, I don't have that. I'm just saying if you have a heart that doesn't seek God, ask him to change your heart. Yes. If you have a heart that makes assumptions and they're not biblically based, ask him to change that. If your heart's hard and you checked all 12 of those, should be 13, but you checked all 12 of those things, okay, let me just tell you something. I believe God can change that heart. If you went 12 for 12, man, that's a bad day in the heart. I have more confidence in the mercy and grace of God to change your heart than your ability to stay stuck in that condition. I just do. Call me crazy. Seriously, call me crazy, but I do. So I want to pray. And once again, you read this story and it can be just simply, wow, this gal, bad shape, got to Jesus, he healed her, that's it. No. The best part, really, of this story comes after she gets healed. Because it's what Jesus says to her. And this, to me, is just, She experienced healing. Awesome. That's a great thing. But she experienced so much more. She experienced his power, but his personhood. That's a big deal. She experienced Jesus in her emotions. How many of you are whacked? Raise your hands. No. Okay. That's a little scary. Okay. But no, think about it. He says, go in peace. You know what's happening there? A restoration of dignity. A restoration of 12 years of emotional toil. This is who Jesus is. You want to know who Jesus is? Yeah, you can go to the beginning of the story, sure, healing, power. Now you're getting who is Jesus. This is who Jesus is. The fact that she's free from suffering means she's free to worship. She couldn't worship before. She couldn't worship. She experiences Jesus relationally. He calls her daughter. Wow. Why? Because he wants her to know, you're not just some woman, man. This is a close deal. What I did and what you did to get to me is an endearing thing, and I'm going to give you an endearing term, and it's daughter. And I don't want you to go away thinking anything other than the fact that you're a daughter. That's a big deal, man. She experienced him socially as an advocate. Think about that. I mean, he made sure nobody could exploit her anymore. Man, he went to bat for her. He healed her. Yeah, he revealed himself to her. He went to bat because I'm telling you, when he's making these statements here, I can just tell you, he's also given a message. Don't even think about messing with her. How do you know that? I know that. I don't know how I know that. I just know that. So I'm just going to pray right now for you. And I don't know what God spoke to you in this message. Maybe nothing. That's a bummer. That's number 13. You can't hear anything good in a message. So just think about your heart right now. Think about what I talked about. And maybe as we were going down that list, you were just dodging bullets and you were going, I'm okay there, I'm okay there. And then you got to number 4, number 6, and it was like, Man, let's pray over that. And maybe you're stuck. I don't know what stuck means to you, And it doesn't have to be anything as drastic as it could be something serious like stuck in a habitual sin or pattern of thinking or, whatever it is. Maybe you got the gossip thing going and you just, that tongue just, I don't know. But I really know that the grace of God is sufficient for all of it.